see you on that Instagram, girl. In them yogurt pants. Made me think. Dang.
Sexy little communist. Sexy little communist. Working out the praxis. Ooh, sexy little socialist. Like the bugs we eat for access. You just got a little extra meat. Call it for access. You own my heart and the means of production. Let me show you my means of reproduction.
Fetal cell Sprite. Tonight's the night. Ballin'. Like Joseph Stalin.
Ooh, sexy little communist. Sexy little communist. Doing little praxis. Ooh, I seen you on my Instagram. You made it my Sinstagram.
What's up? Welcome, everybody. How you been? We've had a good last few days. A lot of people reaching out saying they're really enjoying the stuff that we've been putting out. My hair's growing longer. I'm getting more and more of a ratty hippie vibe. What's up? How y'all doing? Look, we don't usually cover newsy types of things. Hey, forgot my chalk stuff. You know, we aren't a day-to-day news repeater kind of thing, right? To me, that stuff's super boring. Thank you. And who wants to? I mean, a lot of normies follow the news because they think that I'm informed. I read the news. I keep up with the latest government propaganda. I'm informed. I keep up with all the latest lies that I believe, right? People think they're informed and smart because the news is all bullshit and propaganda. Okay, we all know that, right? Hopefully this audience knows that. But sometimes you get these stories that are just so big and so riveting that we must talk about it. And I think this Trump thing, we got to talk about it. It's just too big of a story not to talk about. And this kind of thing, you know, it does affect all the geopolitical sphere. So even though we tend to focus big picture on the meta level stuff, we do meta politics. We do, you know, the big picture zoom out stuff. Sometimes we do have to zoom in and talk about the day-to-day stuff. So we're going to be playing a few clips. We still have philosophy class tonight. Don't worry. Philosophy class in an hour. So it won't be a super long show. But I do want to catch people up on what all's going on. I forgot to put the show, all the links in the show. Let me add that. I want to ask, too, what you guys want to do in terms of future content. So, as you know, we worked all the way through the Paul Williams Gladio text. Wow, what an eye-opener. One of the you know, wildest, craziest books I've read in a long time. Now, we haven't done the part 2 yet. I did catch up on all the other part 2s for subscribers this week. So everything except the Gladio part 2 is complete. Let me add everything to the show description. I forgot all that. I did make a new kind of a mini cringecore song, but it's almost just too stupid for me, which is saying a lot. Maybe I'll roll it out on Twitter. I don't know. It's not very good. Sometimes the cringecore comes out perfect. Sometimes it doesn't. Somebody said, can we do the Bill Gates impression? Somebody said do it. Typically, you only get the when you get the numbers up in terms of pay piggies, when you send me the super chats, that's when you get more of the impressions. So that was a bonus discount free impression. And you say, that doesn't actually sound like Bill Gates. I know that. That's because Tristan's Bill Gates impression, Gil Bates, I like it better than actual Gil Bates. And that's the funny thing with impressions. Sometimes people's impression gets more popular than the actual people. Yeah, y'all just gonna have to watch my cringecore thing and see if you I don't know. There was an idea there, and I like it. And I was just, I don't know, playing some stupid techno songs. And I was like, just singing along to the techno song. I write a country song about writing a techno song. That would be funny. A country song about writing a techno song. I actually like that idea. Let me write that down. That's so stupid. I like it. Country song about writing a techno song. She's my little Instagram guru. Still haven't done my country Instagram guru song. The country, originally, Sexy Little Communist was going to be that. And for whatever reason, I don't even know why, something happened. And we just ended up, I don't know, whenever I hear those Princey sounding songs or whatever, I go into Prince mode. Wannabe Prince mode. Ooh! Right? Making you a coat of pink cashmere.
Count every minute of every hour till you are here. Damn, can't you understand? Never used to go dancing. Ooh, what you are to me. Baby, you got to see. I'm making you a coat of pink cashmere. Ha 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 ha.
Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna put it all up on an album here in a little bit. By the way, you can support the show with super chats. Everybody's got all stingy now. Everybody got all stingy. You don't have to be stingy right here. Support the show with them super chats right there.
Damn, can't you understand? Never used to go dancing. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Rather stay at home.
I could do it better. I have to get it more in practice to get my prints right. But I can do it better, I promise. Oh man, where we at? I can do almost all of Pink Cashmere perfect. Seriously. I gotta be in the mode and I gotta be listening to it. You can't do it on YouTube because it'll ding everything. You catch everything's messed up. Anyway, so back to what we're talking about. We got all kinds of stuff going on. Got to remind you guys that first thing is I'm speaking on Tavistock at an online salon. And that will be, here are the dates and the referral links for that. Now, I'm going to try to dig into new material on Tavistock people haven't heard. I'm going to try to go even deeper. There's the link for that. And people say, why is that ticket expensive? It's a ticket to a whole day-long event. So I'm one of the speakers in that event. So if you're into holistic things, people that want to live off grid, people that make their own clothes, artsy people, okay, that's the vibe of the Mercado Sagrado event. And you get the ticket for the whole day event. So my speech on Tavistock is for 1 hour, from like 2 to 3. So it's an online salon all day event for all that kind of stuff. And that's put on by a friend of ours, Mia, who does the Mercado Sagrado event. It's kind of a big kind of, kind of those, I don't know what you call them, kind of the rich hippie girls in Topanga Canyon, those girls, right? We got to speak out there in 2018, and that was a lot of fun. The weird part, when I did my Esoteric Hollywood talk out at Topanga Canyon, literally a week later, the whole place burned down. And that's not because my speech was such a fire. My speech was so lit. Hell, maybe it was. I don't know. But they had the California fires, 2018, 19, somewhere in there, literally right after we were there, and the whole damn place burned down. But it was cool because they had the event at Paramount Ranch, which is the only standing Old West movie studio set. So if you watch Westworld, they film Westworld there. That church in the church in Westworld is filmed at Topanga Canyon. Anyway, all that burned down. It's crazy. When we did our last California event, 2018, we also went over and we were on Sam Tripoli's podcast. We went and did it in studio. All crazy 2018 stuff. That was a lot of fun out there. We did a whole bunch of stuff out there, 2018. So people are asking, when is your event? Oh, like I said, man, we're trying to get it scheduled. Getting comedians to an event is hurting a cat. No jokes. So, we're working on Famous Man. He says, I want to do it. We're going to do it. Just nailing down a date for comedians is like nailing jelly to the wall. But I think it's going to happen. Anyway, even if Hollywood Famous Man can't do the event, we're still doing it. So No need to worry. We will be doing the California event in July, no matter what, whether we get Hollywood Famous Man or not. If we don't get Hollywood Famous Man, I'm going to be your Hollywood Famous Man because we'll be in Hollywood. Has anybody here even heard of Hollywood? Do y'all know what it is? Anyway, so that's what's going on. That's what's up. That right there. Had a talk today with another famous person. Gangster Man. I had a famous Gangster Man conversation. Won't say anything else about it, but that was wild. Look for that coming up. And as you guys know, as I announced, we just filmed, what was it? A Tucker special. So people were wondering, when you went to Austin, you did all that filming. What were you doing? Were you on Joe Rogan? Was you on Rogan? No. I mean, I'd love to be on Joe Rogan, but I was not on Joe Rogan. We had Tucker's crew with us, a good buddy of ours, and we had a blast because we did our live event in Austin. We did like 4 shows in studio with Lord Voldemort, something crazy like 3 or 4. And then we did, we had BG Cumby do stand up, and his crew came and filmed Keno. Shout out to Keno, Peter. And then we were filming the Tucker special. We filmed 3 different things. We were at 3 different things doing 3 different. It was crazy. It was nonstop filming. I can't say what it is because it'll be rolling out soon. I don't know the date. It is April, so the Tucker specials coming out in April. So everybody's wondering, what were you doing? Yes, it is a full-on, total Tucker special. And the thing I'm so happy about, not just that, it's a great opportunity, obviously, but what I'm really happy about was that it's not just, are you going to be on Tucker one night of the week, right? Because that's a lot of views, but this is a full-on this is like a documentary, bro. Right? So the great thing about it, though, I can't say what, but here's the thing. You'll see when you watch it. You'll know what I mean. What I envisioned and what the producer helped bring to fruition, it was really, I have to give him credit for this, was I want to be really goofy, silly, and get good information across, and we did it. So there's some really amazing. Anybody who doubted my comedy status, which I appropriated myself and awarded to myself, who awarded you the right to be a comedian? Nobody but me. You're not funny. I will prove you wrong in this special. So booyah! Look at that. That's coming out. Wait till you see it. I don't know what the exact air date is, but it was the bomb biggity, baby. I've seen the trailer, and it's not just me. I'm half of it. The other half of it's another person. I can't say what, but because if I say what, you'll know what it's about. So anyway, it's going to be a blast. No, I promise you, it's going to be. I am wearing a bald cap for one entire segment, dressed up as a Bond villain, if you know who I'm talking about. A bald cap. And I'm wearing a spacesuit. So, what do you think of that? I'll put it this way. One segment of mine is serious information. One segment of mine is B-roll and stuff that he filmed. I don't know what he'll do with that. And then another segment is me as a specific, it's not Blofeld, a real world bald man who wears spacesuits. You guys can't figure that out. Come on. And it involves me doing some man on the street, and it involves me talking to people in the park. Okay? It's a win-win. If you ever watched old Jamie Kennedy experiment stuff, it's very much this. Okay, it's that esque. All right, moving on. So we got the tickets there. Get your tickets to that event. We're gonna be talking about the Trump thing here in a second, because the live streams like, what's he talking about? Look, we're gonna look at some clips. We're gonna place this in the bigger picture, but to me, it's like kind of obvious what all this is. It's not. It doesn't take. We don't have to have a PhD in poli-sci to understand what all this nonsense is, because it's been a steady stream of nonsense from Russiagate hoax to, which was obvious, right? Russiagate hoax all the way up to this. It's all the same jibber jabber. Nord Stream, obvious, easy. I mean, again, you don't have to have a PhD in geopolitics, international relations to understand all this nonsense. Operation nonsense is what I'm calling it. What's a dang nonsense? Follow me also on Rockfan. Shout out to Grand Theft World. We had a great time this first 3 months of having new sponsor. Shout out to Richard Grove, Tony, Grand Theft World, our online BFFs. We're in an online relationship, long distance, with Richard and our BFFs over there. So it's going good. We might get married, intellectually speaking. We're not fake and gray. We're straight and cray. There's fake and gray over here. We're straight and cray. So that's what I mean. A marriage of love, a marriage of ideas. Nothing fake and gray. So anyway, we'll get to the Trump stuff in here in a second. See, the numbers jumped right back up, right? It went down to 300. It was at 400, then it bopped down to 300. And then I mentioned Trump again. It bopped back up. Look at that. Magic. Trump magic. Did you know? It's going to be wonderful. I'm trying to do the Trump square. The lips. Trump's lips make a square. It's crazy. Really, it's crazy. It's wonderful. Really. Unbelievable. Have you seen this guy? I can't get my lips into the square. But you know how when stuff's getting real, Trump's lips make a square. That's a little square box spitting facts. Anyway, what is all this Trump stuff? We'll play a few clips and then we'll situate in the big picture. And I just really want to remind everybody as to what the big picture is. Remember, we did a stream 2-3 years ago about top 10 commandments of the global elite. I kind of represented that on one of the fourth hours of Lord Voldemort a few months ago. And I reformulated this just to kind of remind everybody of like what the big picture is, because these news stories like this kind of stuff, which in a sense they kind of matter because it's all about, taking down the existing system by design and replacing it supposedly with this global technocratic thing, which has a good chance of failing, I actually think. So we'll talk about that in a second. Last thing I want to mention is the other live event in Nashville will be in Nashville will be live June 3 and 4 for Courtney's event. There's the tickets for that. I guess it won't let me post all that. There it is. Before the Cali event, we'll be speaking at Courtney's event. That's also a 2-day thing. So people, why the tickets so much? Because they're 2-day events. Well, one's a 1-day event. The other one's a 2-day event. So that's how that works. And talked to Richard today. We're thinking we're going to do the next course that we'll do. As you know, we just taught the philosophy course. You can still purchase the philosophy course. That link is below. 12 lectures, 30 hours, 30 somewhere in there. If you count all the Q&A, it goes into like 36 hours for a reasonable, less than community college price for the history of Western philosophy. That's always available. That will always be for sale in the show description. Next course we're going to do, I think in September, we're thinking Global Elite Books course. What if we did 12 lectures, 2-3 hours each, 36 hours on the writings of the Global Elite? Now, if you subscribe to my content, then you already kind of have access to that. But what if we represented that material in that lecture format with slides, which would take a long time? But hey, I think that's the next logical step for what the next course would be over at Autonomy University. So our sponsors are, of course, Chalk.com and Richard Grove over at Autonomy University. Also the host of one of the best podcasts out there, Grand Theft World. Everybody knows about Grand Theft World. 7-hour podcast every week, highlighting the best clips. There's highlights of the highlights. So if you can't, I can't do 7 hours. Well, go subscribe to Richard and watch the 40-minute breakdowns. So literally everything is done for you. Subscribe to Richard here on YouTube under Richard Grove, Tragedy and Hope, or on Rockfin as Richard Grove / Grand Theft World. I keep wanting to say Grand Theft Auto, which obviously that's the takeoff, but I've never even played Grand Theft Auto. Everybody says I'm the Hawaiian shirt Jimmy character from Grand Theft Auto. Okay, I'll take that. What are we? All right. So next thing before we talk about the Trump stuff, we'll play some clips, just do a little bit of commentary. Yeah, I have the Barron Trump journey from that old book. I actually have that. When we did an event in Houston. No, it was either no. It was my first live event that we ever did was in Austin with Boiler Room, 17. At the 2017 live event, somebody brought me the Barron Trump book, which is crazy. So, shout out to those guys. I forget who brought that book, but next thing before we get into these clips is what's to come. I want to get you guys a survey as to what you want to be discussed next, because we finished the Williams book, the Gladio text. Part 2 lecture will be up in the next day or two. As you know, we did the public part 1 free half, and we got lectured through about the first half of the Gladio book. So subscribers will get the part 2 in the next few days. But what do you want me to do next? So here's the options for the next lecture. Do you want the full the next phase of this classic from Ratier, the Milner Fabian text? Do you want that? We could go to something different like Fletcher Prouty's classic Secret Team. Everybody forgets this book. This was influential on Oliver Stone. So we could go in that route, get into some of the Black Ops stuff. Nobody ever seems to want to talk about that. I don't get it. Like all the spy stuff, which is super interesting, and nobody wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to talk about these stupid political things. You like that? So we got Fletcher Prouty's Secret Team. We got Milner Fabian book, the next lecture in that. Or I just got these little giblets. I got the Patrick Wood collection. Do you want to do Patrick Wood? Technocracy Rising, Technocracy World Order, Trilaterals over Washington, which was written with Anthony Sutton. This one would be good because we've covered Sutton's other stuff, which is really important. So Patrick Wood and Professor Anthony Sutton, Trilaterals over Washington. That'd be a good one. We also got this in, which is crazy. I need to have Dr. Spence back on, because you remember we interviewed Dr. Spence on his Crowley book, and I dug up his obscure text on Riley Ace of Spies. Remember? We did the whole podcast. We got into Riley, Dr. Spence. I was reading through this. This one's kind of boring, honestly. I mean, it's relevant because the last chapter is just basically about whoever dominates tech and transhumanism will rule the world. So it's kind of like, do we really need to read this whole boring? Do we need to read the entire boring Henry Kissinger book to know that the transhumanists will rule the world? Do we need to do that? Maybe you guys want me to do it, because we haven't done a Kissinger book. You want me to do old Hank Old Hank Kissinger. I guess a Hank Kissinger song should be like a Hank Williams Jr. song. We also got this one. Look at this one. Look at this classic. R.H. Bruce Lockhart, British Agent book. Interesting. Who, of course, worked with Sidney Riley. And, of course, Lockhart was the British government's liaison to the Bolsheviks. So we got those as the options for the next phase of lectures. Or, I'm kind of getting tired of Vatican stuff. I mean, we've done so many Vatican podcasts. But, I mean, there's more in this. I mean, I think we did like 9 hours, 12 hours of lectures from this book. Do you want more Wim Hof? So let's take a poll. Let's look at the chat and we'll see what you guys want. So it says, what do you want next? So the options are more of the Milner Fabian book, something different like Fletcher Prouty's Secret Team, Patrick Wood Technocracy with Anthony Sutton, Kissinger, or British Spies. That's your 5 options. Yeah, I'm gonna let you guys pick what we do next. We could do so we got some secret teams. Let's see, Vatican, secret team. We got a couple votes for secret team. I'm so tired of. We could keep doing. We could do Vatican. You could do Vatican podcast forever, dude. Technocracy. We got a couple votes for that. Henry Kissinger. So it's going to equal out. What's the point of even doing all this? Because British Spies. Because it always equals out. Technocracy, British Spies, Secret Team. Shit, it's all equaling out. I don't know what to do now. We're all tired. Everybody's tired of Vatican stuff. That's one thing. I'm sick of it. More cringecore music, but as a British guy. Well, Dyer mode will have technocracy. We've got a bunch of technocracies. Looks like that's going to win out. Do more technocracy, spy stuff, Kissinger. A lot. So it looks like overwhelmingly everybody wants. Do the Eric Schmidt and Henry Kissinger book. I'm about to add. I don't have Eric Schmidt's book. Let me add that to the list. I know I drive the bus, but I've never asked the audience for what geopolitical thing they want next, right? I ask people about movies all the time. I haven't done a movie poll in forever. You know what's funny? When I ask people what movies they want me to do, literally every time, 90% of the requests are the ones we've already done, which is funny because I'm always like, we did that, it did here. We did this here. So search the stuff. All right, so it's like overwhelmingly everybody wants the Patrick Wood, Anthony Sutton Technocracy book. That's not what I thought would win out, but okay. Everybody, so we got a few Riley Ace of Spies in there, British Spies. I just forget to do like audience polls. I actually like that. I like all this stuff. So I'm happy to ask you guys what you'd like to know more about. What material would you like to learn more about? I'd like to do a whole, after we do the Global Elite lectures in September, which will be a course, I want to do a course on espionage, right? Because this is huge, and nobody thinks anything about this. They just think it's stupid, movies and James Bond stories. Let's look at the real world, because it's all just a bunch of criminal activities. Basically, is all it is. Yes, we've done Full Metal Jacket. No, wait, we didn't. No, yeah, we did. I think. Seems like Jamie and I did Full Metal Jacket at one point, because I remember talking about Disney and I remember talking about Phoenix Program. So, all right. Well, overwhelmingly looks like next up will be I can't talk. Technocracy with Sutton. Sutton and Patrick Wood wins out. Okay, so we'll do this book next. I guess everybody's tired of the Fabian book. We did that one. We did like 6 hours from this. Now, there's more to this book, right? We only got we got past halfway. I'd say we got through about 60% of this book. So there's always deeper information about the history of Milner, Fabian, and all that. Anyway, we'll go with that. All right, Patrick Wood it is. And yeah, I know I need to eventually get Patrick Wood on. I just haven't got around to doing it. So we'll try to get an interview with him too when we cover this one. Because everybody knows about Technocracy Rising, which I'm sure is great. I've not actually read it yet. I just got these in. Right, everybody's from. This is, I think, the one he's most known for. Everybody knows about this one. But I was actually more interested in the fact that he wrote a book with Professor Sutton, which I didn't know till I got it. So I'm a little more interested in this book now because this one's lesser known. Anyway, so that'll be fun. And then also, I do want to get to Changing Images of Man. I almost decided to do Changing Images of Man. I really hate reading PDFs. I cannot stand reading things on the computer. It's almost impossible to find a physical copy of Changing Images of Man unless you go have it printed out, which is annoying and a big hassle. So I was kind of putting off doing Changing Images of Man until a print copy like popped up on Amazon, which every now and then you get these obscure geopolitical texts that pop up on Amazon. You know, like Game of Nations, it took me like 2 or 3 years of waiting until a copy popped up on Amazon. I grabbed it right away. But we do need to do Changing Images of Man, and we need to do not Power Shift, but we need to do Toffler's Future Shock, because that one's really relevant for Tavistock. But shout out to John for mailing me a copy of Power Shift. I just got to get my hands on Future Shock, because that's all Tavistock stuff. But I mean, from what I see in Power Shift, basically it's all the same stuff. He just like kind of talks about the same things. All right, let's look at this a little bit of the Trumpian analysis here, right? And let's kind of see what's going on with this. We got, since we on a Tucker special, we're going to be playing a little bit of Tucker clips here. Let's see what he's talking about. Get a little overview of what's going on. And I heard some of this clip, so I think he says what was what I thought, which is, again, super obvious. Like, how could you not see that this is like just political motivation, distraction?
Donald Trump, as you no doubt know, was arraigned in a Manhattan court today. The former president is back in Florida at this hour and scheduled to speak in just a moment from Mar-a-Lago. This feels significant, so we're going to take his remarks live as soon as they begin. But before we get there, it's worth understanding what it is we've just seen. Often the clearest perspectives on our country come from outside its borders. With distance comes clarity. So with that in mind, here is Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele on Twitter today. Quote, "Think what you want about former President Trump and the reasons he's being indicted," Bukele wrote. "But just imagine if this happened in any other country where a government arrested the main opposition candidate. The United States' ability to use, quote, democracy as foreign policy is gone."
Yeah, and shout out to that dude for actually making changes in his government or in his country and instituting real currency, right? So Bukele is famous because he's promoted Bitcoin and he's like started to arrest all these gang people or whatever. So signs of actual leadership, right, and actual competency. And I would imagine that El Salvador will become very wealthy in the future due to making Bitcoin a central part of its currency, and of course a lot of that had to do with Max Kaiser. So yeah, interesting to see that. But he's making the point that, look, doesn't everybody know democracy is a complete joke? That doesn't exist. Democracy is a scam, dude. That's just a cover for shadow government, for cover for ruling it's not a cover, it's literally ruling everybody by their base desires through the lowest common denominator. I mean, it's the worst form of government, the most deceptive bunch of baloney ever, and hopefully everybody can see that, but of course they can't, because a big part of the internal logic of democracy is actually keeping everybody really stupid, and they were successful at that.
Thousands of miles from New York City, in the heart of Central America, it is very obvious what just happened at that Manhattan courthouse. It's obvious to many Democrats, too. Trump was criminally charged because he is planning to challenge Joe Biden in the upcoming presidential.
Yeah, is this not obvious? Like, this is obviously why all this is happening. I mean, yeah, I don't have a PhD in international relations or poli-sci, and yeah, it's obviously that's what it is.
Election. It's really that simple. If Donald Trump had retired in 2020, would he have been arraigned today? Of course not. Top Democrats know that. Some effectively admit it. The liberal blog Politico this morning ran a piece describing what it called President Joe Biden's most senior advisors, predicting that Trump will be the Republican nominee, and because he has now been charged with crimes, he will lose the general election.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. And by the way, I don't even typically follow the day-to-day political theater, WWE, wrestling stuff, but I mean, is there any Democrat candidate who could even mount any kind of opposition to Trump? I mean, realistically? I mean, who are they? Gavin Newsom, AOC? AOC is too crazy. Like, they're not going to run her. So who would even be a candidate against Trump that's even plausible? Hillary? Well, a lot of the Democrats don't like Hillary. They're not going to vote for Michelle Obama. My wife Michelle. Oh, my wife Michael. They're not going to vote for that, right?
Thanks to this criminal case, the Biden White House believes that swing voters, the critical voters in a presidential election, are, quote, now permanently out of Trump's reach.
Man, you talking about swing voters? I mean, that's just how degenerate this country's gotten, right? You got people cheating on their spouses, going out to vote, swing voters. That's what that means, right? You got people going to the voting booths, and they're going in the booths and doing it and cheating. That's what a swing voter is. You didn't know that?
And just to make certain that swing voters never fall within Trump's reach, Donald Trump is scheduled to be back in court in New York with the accompanying media circus just weeks before the first Republican primary. This is the boldest election interference ever attempted in this country's history. And if you doubt that, if you think it's maybe on the level, then we suggest you look carefully at the indictment that was unveiled today.
So, I mean, doesn't this also kind of show that voting is kind of silly? I mean, I understand voting at the local level, like that makes sense, but I remember in the 2000s, mid to late 2000s, started thinking about just the whole idea of the nation voting for some dude off in Washington somewhere, and everybody focuses on the voting of the president, right? Which the presidents, they come and go. They don't even really affect the local politicians. Those people have more of an effect on you than the president. But of course, everybody focuses on the president, like it's all hinges on him. And oh, the president, like he can get all this done, right? Like all these campaign promises. All the president is like a media focal point. That's it. So for Trump to critique the media, I think was his biggest power in 2016-17. That was really what he did. And I think that's one of the main reasons that they didn't like him so much in terms of media. And then, of course, politics is compromise. Doesn't everybody know this? Like, one of the silly things about people who follow and get into politics is if their candidate does one thing they don't like, then they're like, oh, I don't like you no more. He sold out. He compromised. Now, true, it depends on what the issue is and all that. But it's like the politics is nothing but compromise. What do you mean? The whole discipline is how to, cut a deal, right? Didn't Trump have a book, Art of the Deal? I mean, that's what politics is. So it's like you're mad he compromised. Well, all of politics is compromise. The art of the deal. So to me, it's obvious. It was obvious when we made the videos in 2016-17 about Russiagate, right? Right away said that was fake and gray. QAnon, right away I said it was fake and gray, right? We've been spot on all this. And it's not because it was hard. It's like, well, at a certain point, it's all obvious, right? Nord Stream pipeline, obvious what that was. Well, Cy Hirsch gets, okay, but like everybody knew that months before Cy Hirsch wrote about it when it was obvious. Now, I mean, he did the real journalism work, I guess, to demonstrate it, right? But everybody, I mean, you have to be a complete NPC to not know that. Duh. Anyway, politics is like first or second grade geopolitics, right? It's like the stuff that people are figuring out and following in geopolitics or in politics is like watered down second grader version of geopolitics, which is like high school, college level stuff, right? So it's like you still follow this stuff, like that. You think the president that makes the decisions in the country, bro? The president is over there playing golf, like 40% of the year, bro. The president is on the golf course more than he's in the Oval Office. So I'm just talking about all presidents, okay? Now, every now and then you can get presidents that do things that the establishment doesn't like. And to a degree, Donald Trump did things that other power elites and the establishment didn't like. But then people were like, well, he didn't do everything I wanted. Yeah, but none of them will. No politician is going to do all because it's politics. It's the art of the deal. So, obviously, in my view, this is all fake and gray. I mean, I'm sure Trump, paid off money to these hoes, right? To these thoughts out there, right? Them old 90s thoughts. 80s thoughts. I don't even know what era is Stormy Daniels from. Is she an 80s woman and 90s woman? I don't know anything about her. Although I think she did have a brand on her gut from so people argued from Nexium, right? Or something like that. Wasn't there a Stormy Daniels Nexium connection that popped up in the media like 2015, 16, 17, somewhere in there? I don't know. Anyway, a lot of this is simply just distraction. Now, that's hard for people to understand because it's not just a distraction. And I also know that people overuse this. This is all distraction from the banking stuff. It's a distraction from what they're really doing over here with nanotech. Blah, blah. I know people, every time there's an event, there's a million goobers saying it's a distraction from what's really going on. I'm aware, but I actually think this one actually is a distraction, right? Because the case is ridiculous and goofy. It's even goofier. It's like Trump wrote 13 checks or 12 checks for $10,000. I mean, this is silly compared to like what's really going on in the country and in the world. And so how often do we talk about things being distractions? Not very often, but this is one of them. Okay, so here you go. You want an example of a distraction? This is obviously one. Everybody loves these stupid, juicy sex stories or whatever.
Donald Trump, as you probably heard, has been charged with 34 separate crimes. Those crimes turn out on close examination to be the same crime repeated 34 times. And that crime is, quote, falsifying business records in the first degree. So the Manhattan DA alleges that Donald Trump sent his own money to various people for various entirely legal reasons, but didn't account for it correctly in his office records. That's what he's accused of. And even if what Alvin Bragg has said Trump did, he actually did do, Trump could not be charged with that because the statute of limitations has expired.
So it's all just for the news, right? It's like Lord Voldemort, right? You owe $1 billion. I mean, what? And there were news stories coming out. Oh no, actually, Alex should pay $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion. I mean, it's like communist, socialist government, just fake stuff. And then you're like, you watch this, and you're like, is the court system faked? Is it all fake and gray? Like, what is this? Remember the scene in Idiocracy where they have court TV and is all of the court like Judge Wapner or like Judge Judy? Like maybe the whole thing is just Judge Judy stuff, right? It seems like some sort of production and like surrealist, OJ stuff. Remember OJ and all that? Like the whole world is focused on the OJ trial for a month or whatever. Or was it, hell, maybe it was 6 months. It's just weird, bizarre. And it was the same way in the 90s when, how dare you? I did not have sex with that woman. Remember that? It's the same thing. Rinse and repeat. And they talked, oh my gosh, dude, was any of you even in the 90s? Was you even in the 90s? Did you even exist? Young boys and girls in the 90s? A lot of y'all didn't even exist. You were in potentia. You were not in actuality, to speak in Aristotelian terms. You were in the loins of your father, who's me, because I'm a lot of y'all's daddy. Boom. You were in my loins. I'm just joking. What were we talking about? The 90s. The stupid Bill Clinton trial. Do you remember that? Now, obviously, I think they're all a bunch of corrupt people, crazies. But the media nonstop, dude, all they did was talk about that stupid Monica Lewinsky cigar story for maybe it was years. Seems like half of the 90s was dominated by this ridiculous Bill Clinton cigar story. I'm not saying Bill Clinton is a nice man. I'm just saying that this is what the media does is, and I guess now the legal system, which is basically just an arm of the media, is that they just run these ridiculous stories for months and months and months, which is what they did with Russiagate, to confuse, distract, rile up, make everybody mad, and follow a bunch of red herrings. Just follow a bunch of nonsense that leads to nowhere. And it's all just obviously with the intention to make sure that there's not a Trump in the election. Totally obvious. Like, if anybody can't see that, like you got to be like sub 90 IQ, sub 100 IQ, sub 110, no, sub 80 IQ to not get this. I mean, do we need any more analysis? I mean, it's like that's it. It's totally obvious what this is.
So the question is, how did Alvin Bragg drag Donald Trump into court today? Well, he did it by claiming that Trump falsified business records as a means of violating some other, much more serious law. That's what he's saying. Here's Alvin Bragg today.
Under New York state law, it is a felony to falsify business records with intent to defraud and an intent to conceal another crime. That is exactly what this case is about. 34 false statements made to cover up other crimes. These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct.
Yeah, New York's not a corrupt state. They don't tolerate corruption in New York. No siree. You don't pay your coof mask fines. If you don't pay your insane traffic violation parking fines, we don't tolerate that. Of course, if you a money launderer or something else, we welcome you with open arms, right? We don't tolerate. Give me a break.
The defendant repeatedly made false statements on New York business records. He also caused others to make false statements.
So here's what Bragg just said, in case you weren't paying attention to the lecture. Donald Trump has committed a crime not by changing business records, but by changing business records in order to conceal another more serious crime or to defraud somebody. So let's take this in order. What is the more serious crime? Well, we have no idea because Bragg hasn't told us. No such more serious crime is listed in the indictment. And critically, and this really is the point, Donald Trump has not been charged with another more serious crime. So what we have as of tonight is an indictment that does not allege specific violations of the law. Well, that's, of course, unconstitutional, but it's also farcical. What about the fraud claim you just heard?
I mean, I don't know anything about legal stuff. right? I don't know about legals and legalities and all that, but I mean, what he just said sounds like ironclad logic to me. Like, I didn't hear anything except a bunch of, as they say in legal terms, obfuscation.
Bragg make on television. Well, Bragg claims that Trump sent money to Stormy Daniels in order to influence the outcome of the 2016 election, and in so doing...
Oh, so they're saying that he paid her off because she would have damaged the campaign? Okay.
He tried to, quote, defraud voters. Well, that turns out to be an actual crime that's on the books. Bragg is claiming that Donald Trump committed a campaign finance violation, which is a federal crime, by the way. The problem is he did not commit a campaign finance violation. Nobody is claiming that he did, including the Federal Election Commission, which has investigated this question. So as a legal matter, the case brought today, the 34 felonies, make no sense at all.
So if it is a federal crime and there wasn't federal prosecution, then how is it being done as a state crime if it's not a maybe there's a law in New York, I guess, and since Donald Trump is he a Florida resident? I guess he's in New York. No, I don't know where he's a resident, Florida or New York. Anyway, I guess that's what it is. I don't know anything about law stuff, dude.
It's ridiculous. But as a political tactic, which is precisely what it
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's like, I don't know anything about law, but it's like, obviously this is like a political tactic, totally.
is, it is likely to be effective. And that's why the media so fervently supports it. Watch.
A kind of an alliance between different groups that have a history of being dispossessed and discriminated against, whether they are Jews or Black Americans or LGBT folks, that might come together to push back against the white Christian nationalist assault on American democracy.
Well, you don't know what part this...
The white Christian assault on democracy. What?
man might play in the future of our democracy.
This campaign of disinformation that's continuously undermining our democracy.
So you'll notice that a talking point was sent out to all of those outlets, right? A Democratic Party talking point of undermining our democracy. And it's just like those clips that Conan would play. Remember those, the Conan O'Brien clips that went viral where all of the local news stations are saying the same things in sync because they're all controlled, obviously.
One day people will look back and say how we've handled this issue of Trump, how it affects our democracy. Really could be a major event, could be a big turning point, one way or the other.
The federal prosecutors have said this is a crime that imperils our democracy.
So the entire democracy is literally falling apart and imperiled by Donald Trump writing 10 checks for $10,000 to pay off some ethot from the 90s. That's a fragile democracy. I mean, come on.
So it imperils our democracy, and because we care so deeply about democracy, we're going to prevent the leading candidate in the other party from running for president, not let voters vote for him. Notice there was not one word about any crime here, meaning a violation of statute. So what is this really about? Well, you may have heard MSNBC guest Peter Beinart describe today's circus in Manhattan as part of a larger offensive by a coalition of the aggrieved, and we're quoting, to push back against the white Christian nationalist assault on American democracy. Now, in case you're waiting to hear the real motive here, wait no longer. There it is. Let that sink in. Does that sound like justice to you? Or does that sound...
Hey, there's Mike Lindell. Hey, how you doing? I was just in the Trump Mar-a-Lago, and we got a bunch of... I've actually built a floating island off the coast of Mar-a-Lago that's an entire pillow fort. The pillow fort, it floats around. How you doing? Come on out to Pillow Island. Bring your girlfriends and your aunts. They get a special 50% discount if you come to Pillow Fort Island. No men allowed. It's just me and your grandma and your aunt and your mom. We're going to have a good time. We're going to spoon Mike Lindell on Pillow Island, floating now up the coast of Mar-a-Lago.
like tribal justice.
I can't resist doing a Mike Lindell impression when Mike Lindell pop up. He popping up. Pop, pop.
Of course, exactly what it is. Now, we're waiting, as we told you at the top, for...
Anyway, so I thought they were going to... I thought that clip would have some of Trump speaking. Anyway. Our democracy is threatened by the pillow industrial complex. Mike Lindell and the pillow industrial complex is undermining our democracy because of the pillow cartel. He's part of that mattress cartel. Mike Giza Dream Sheets. If you'll allow your wife to come and lay next to me, we'll just spoon. It's going to be totally platonic. Don't worry. I guarantee your wife's going to love it. She's going to get my pyramid-shaped mattresses. Don't ask me how you lay on them because they're pyramid-shaped. You roll right off, but they're super comfortable. My Giza Dream Sheets also go along with the pyramid mattresses. If you would hit like and share, we're having fun. Being silly. What is this? But hey, we got so that's what this is about. Now, let's zoom out and get the crux here. What's the main point about all this? What's the big deal? The big deal is this. The overall agenda always marches forward regardless of who is in the White House. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter at all who's in the White House, because certain candidates have at times done certain things to upset the existing power structure, even if those candidates were in some degree compromised or part of a power structure. The Kennedys, obviously, JFK couldn't have come to power. RFK couldn't have got elected without help from, the mobsters and the unions and this kind of stuff. So, but that doesn't mean that they still didn't do things that made other people mad, which is what I think happened in the case with JFK and RFK. So it's nothing to do with good guy, bad guy, and everybody falls into this low IQ thinking of, well, I like so-and-so because he's a good guy. Well, I like the other guy because he's a good guy and the other guy's a bad guy. That's just silly, right? None of these, it's not a good guy, bad guy. It's power structures. It's, organized groups of power structures that sometimes disagree. And so the big picture is, I want to say, what's really going on? What's the distraction from? This is all a distraction from what's really going on, which is in the small localized small picture, zoom in. Of course, they don't want Trump to run next year, right? 2024. Zoom out. Big picture is the technocratic agenda always marches forward. So I've watched political jibber jabber since I was a teenager in the 80s and 90s. And I wasn't even really into politics in the 80s and 90s. But do you understand that it's no different than it was in the 80s and the 90s? Every election is the most important election for our country. Every 8 years or so, there's a big SEX scandal. Never fails. There's always one of those. There's always, something going on with the saber rattling of another country and blah, blah, blah. We're going to hear about global wars on the footsteps of global Armageddon, right? You hear this pops up. Every summer is the story about North Korea testing its nukes. I've been hearing that since the 90s. These stories just get recycled, okay? So a lot of that stuff is just not even that big of a deal. However, do you know what never stops marching forward? Since the 90s, since I was a kid, the technocratic agenda. Absolutely nothing has ever stopped in the technocratic agenda marching forward. And now it has just gotten total crazy land because they want to control all energy. Yes, energy control is also life control because everything that we do, human interactions, human social strata, all that's energy exchange, energy. So controlling energy is also the control of human life, just like population control is also control of everybody in the population at all times. It's not just get the numbers down. That's not all it is, right? Rock the vote, dog. MTV, rock the vote. So, banning of cars, banning of stoves, banning of gasoline engines, death care, banning of travel, banning of meat. You will eat some bugs and you will like it. Anti-family. Agenda 21. Austerity. CBDC BIS. ESG. OPP. The Bush-Rio Treaty from the 90s. Remember that? That's all connected to the UN Biodiversity Project, the Wildlands Project, 15-minute cities, which will be tied into ESG, social credit score. That's the plan. That always marches forward, and it doesn't matter what Goobers is or is not in the White House. This stuff always goes forward. There you go. That's what's really going on. Now, is it a distraction? Yes. Is it real? To me, it looks silly. Just like all the P-Gate was made up and silly. Obviously. Come on. So there you go. That's it. Politics completely dissected, deconstructed, and solved in about 50 minutes. There you go. I did everything for you right there. Let's go to the Super Chats. We got Keaton, $10. I was in the Army a few years ago, and the soldiers sometimes wore Masonic insignias. Interesting. Sometimes they wore it on their trucks. Can you speak to why this is prevalent in the military? I didn't actually know how prevalent that was in the military. So thank you for that super chat there, Keaton. That is not an area I know much about. But my guess would be that these kinds of networks like that, maybe they function as networks within networks, right? So maybe it's a means for having a little group or a network of cohesion within a broader network of military. I'm just guessing. But I did not know that. Anonymous, $5. Your Gladio review episode was fire. Thanks for all the hard work. Yeah, thank you guys. And that Gladio episode will have a part 2 very soon. Be sure and go get the Paul Williams book, by the way. It's a great book. Dyer, $10. I work with many people who have TDS. What is TDS? I don't know what that is. Is that a tinnitus? That sounds like one of them things where people have a hard time chewing shit. Is that one of the symptoms? You better get your stabbies. Okay, he was making a joke. I don't know what TDS is. Daddy, $5. It's my daddy right here. Jay, is there a connection between the Beatles and Tavistock? Again, I think there is a connection. I think it's plausible, as I've said many times, that Adorno might have advised Tavistock or given his opinion, because Bertrand Russell helped bring the OSS, the Frankfurt School people over to work with the OSS. So that would be one connection to Tavistock. But I've never said that Adorno wrote all of the Beatles songs or anything like that. Do you know if Tavistock had an influence on image boards or forum creations? That I don't know. Maybe you've already spoken on this. No, I don't know that about that. So Richard over at Tragedy and Hope, Richard actually found a bunch of really old Tavistock's like manuals and stuff. And I remember he bought those for like $100, $200, because they were on Amazon for like $200 or something. And he bought several of those years ago. So I need to have Richard on, and we should go through some of those old Tavistock like manuals and textbooks. Gary with a big old fat super chat, winning the night, $100. I cannot make it to the Nashville event, but here is a super chance. Give me one more super chance. Ooh, baby. Thank you so much, Gary, winning the super chat contest tonight. And remind you guys that if you do want to come to the Nashville event, tickets are in the show description. June 3rd and 4th, 2-day event. We got a lot of big names coming. Head on over to the link and you can see all the big names. J.E. Meeg, Jameeg, $20. Here's fiat for content. I like it. I will take your fiat and I will trade you one content. Adam 1912, $10. I just bought Fire in the Minds of Men. Hey, that's a classic. Good job. I know you reference it a lot. I'm not sure if you did a breakdown. Now, we have not done a breakdown of the entire book. We have referenced it many times. We referenced it recently in. We do so many podcasts now, I don't even remember. I can't. There's too many. We do like literally. I'm doing like 2 to 3 interviews a day now. Okay, so stuff's getting crazy. By the way, we got philosophy class here in a second. It is a big book. I need help. Yeah. I mean, hey, Tristan. Tristan did, I think, on his Dostoevsky show. Go look up Primal Edge Health. Look for his Dostoevsky show. He did like a 2 or 3 hour analysis of Dostoevsky, demons, and Fire in the Minds of Men. I think that's right. So that if you're looking for a Fire in the Minds of Men breakdown, that's the closest thing right now. David, $5. Where's your preferred form of government? I think I would put them like Aristotle does on a scale, and I would say that monarchy is probably the best strictly in form, but there's also dangers, obviously, when getting, a tyrannical, degenerate, evil monarch. But of course, democracy is worst. So, BMX, $20. Shh. BMX says, be quiet. Well, BMX is a long-time super chatter. Shout out to BMX. Also, guys, remember that the best way to keep your toxic masculinity points up is to head on over to chalk.com. And chalk.com has the best supplements out there. And if you want to support me, the best way to do that is to support me via chalk.com. Now, one thing I want to talk about, which is Shilajit. Did I bring the Shilajit in here? Yes. Shilajit, right, is great for mental focus and clarity. And Jamie's done her own little mini experiment with this where she took Shilajit for like a month and she read nonstop. So although women can take it, it also does support testosterone for men. So, for example, there's a study that you can read over at chalk.com. They have a lot of studies. They reference peer-reviewed stuff. It increased the testosterone in men by 19%, and overall 24% when dudes took it for 90 days. It helps your body absorb and use CoQ10. It enhances your mitochondrial energy production, so it boosts your energy. Promotes lean muscles and lean muscle mass. Promotes circulation, supports collagen production, and if you get the 500 milligrams, I think you will be happy. You won't be disappointed. So head on over to chalk.com, that's CHOQ.com. Use the promo code J50, that's JAY50. And by the way, that's information from Dr. Matt Dorsey, not from me, but Dr. Matt Dorsey, who works over at chalk.com. So that's, again, coming from an actual real doctor. And chalk.com is one of the best for supplements out there. If you want a recurring subscription, use the promo code JAY53LIFE, J53Life. That's JAY53LIFE. And as we go through the week, I will be kind of highlighting and going through different products. Tonight, I did want to talk about some of the benefits of Shilajit. A lot of people that are keto and carnivore, by the way, are also finding a lot of benefits by adding Shilajit to their diet, to their regimen, to their meal cycles. All right, everybody, thank you so much. If you would hit like and share, and